In the shadowed underbelly of New York City, where power flowed like blood through the veins of the elite, stood Alexander Voss, the most feared mafia king the East Coast had ever known. At 42, he ruled an empire built on fear, silence, and unbreakable loyalty. His penthouse atop the tallest tower in Manhattan overlooked the glittering lights that hid a world of violence and control. But Alexander never smiled, not once in over 20 years. Not since the car accident that stole the use of his legs and shattered the last piece of his soul. Wheelchair-bound, his face was a mask of stone, cold gray eyes that could freeze a man's blood, sharp jawline clenched in perpetual rage, and lips that remained pressed in a thin, unforgiving line. Doctors, therapists, even his own mother before she passed had all failed. Laughter, joy, those were myths from a life he no longer recognized. He communicated in commands, threats, and the occasional bullet when words weren't enough. I was just a simple girl from a small town in Punjab who had somehow landed in this concrete jungle. My name is Ayesha Khan. 24 years old, talkative to a fault, with a laugh that my late mother used to say could brighten the darkest room. I had come to America chasing a nursing degree, but life had other plans. My father's sudden illness back home drained every penny, forcing me to drop out and take whatever work I could find. That's how I ended up as a maid in Alexander Voss's fortress-like penthouse. The agency warned me, don't speak unless spoken to. Keep your head down. Mr. Voss doesn't tolerate noise. But I was born with a mouth that ran faster than my brain, and silence had never been my strong suit. The first day I stepped into his world, my heart nearly stopped. The penthouse was all black marble, floor-to-ceiling windows, and an eerie quiet that felt heavier than any noise. I was pushing my cleaning cart down the long hallway when I heard the low growl of his voice from the study. "Who the hell let a child in here?" I froze, clutching my mop like a shield. There he was, Alexander Voss, in his custom wheelchair, broad shoulders, filling out a tailored black shirt, dark hair, perfectly styled. But his eyes, they were voids. No warmth, no light. Just endless winter. I couldn't help it. My mouth opened before I could stop it. "Hey sir, I'm Ayesha, the new maid, and I'm 24, not a child. Though if I keep eating the leftover pizza from your fridge like I did last night, I might look like one soon." I giggled nervously, the sound echoing awkwardly in the silence. He stared at me like I had grown two heads. No one had ever spoken to him that way. His men trembled in his presence. Women threw themselves at his feet for power or money, but never dared joke. His jaw tightened. "Get out, and don't come back, and don't come back." But the agency had no other jobs, and I needed the money desperately. The next morning, I returned anyway, humming an old Punjabi folk song under my breath as I dusted the bookshelves. He was there again, reviewing documents on his tablet, ignoring me completely. I kept talking. "Sir, these books are beautiful, but so dusty. When was the last time someone actually read them? Oh, and your plants look sad. They need love, just like people do." Back home, my grandmother used to talk to roses every morning. She said they bloomed better when they heard kind words. He didn't respond. Not a word. But I noticed his fingers paused on the screen for a fraction of a second. I took that as encouragement. Day after day, I chattered away while cleaning about the crazy subway rides, the delicious street food in Queens that reminded me of home. How my little sister sent me voice notes full of giggles, and even silly jokes that made me laugh at myself. Why don't skeletons fight each other? They don't have the guts. I'd burst into laughter alone, the sound bouncing off the cold walls. Alexander never smiled, but he stopped ordering me to leave. Sometimes when I thought he wasn't listening, I'd catch him watching me from the corner of his eye. His men whispered that the boss was tolerating the noisy little maid longer than anyone expected. One evening, as I was arranging fresh flowers I had bought with my own money, bright sunflowers that screamed sunshine, he finally spoke more than a command. "Why do you talk so much?" I turned, beaming. "Because silence is lonely, sir, and you look like you've been lonely for a very long time. Plus, my mouth has a mind of its own. It's a family trait. My father says I could talk the ears off a donkey." For a split second, something flickered in those gray eyes. Not a smile, but less ice. He wheeled away without another word. Weeks turned into months. I learned his routines. He hated pity more than anything. His disability was never to be mentioned. He worked relentlessly controlling his mafia empire from the shadows, meetings conducted via encrypted calls, orders given in clipped tones that made grown men pale. I saw the ruthlessness firsthand one night when one of his lieutenants came begging for mercy after a failed deal. Alexander's voice was like steel. You knew the price of failure. The man left broken but alive, barely. I hid in the kitchen, heart pounding. But the next morning, I still brought him his coffee with a bright a good morning, sir. Today I made it with extra cinnamon, just like you secretly like it, even though you pretend you don't. He took the mug without thanks, but his fingers brushed mine for the briefest moment. Warmth, unexpected. Then came the first twist. One stormy night, the power went out across the building. The penthouse plunged into darkness. I was terrified of the dark childhood trauma from load shedding back in Pakistan. I fumbled for candles, talking nonstop to calm myself. Okay, Ayesha, it's just darkness, not monsters. Though if there are monsters, I'll tell them a joke and they'll run away laughing. My voice trembled. From the other room, his wheelchair moved. He appeared in the doorway holding a small emergency lantern. Stop babbling and sit down before you hurt yourself. His tone was gruff, but he guided me to the couch. We sat in the dim light, thunder rumbling outside. I couldn't stop talking about my dreams of becoming a nurse to help people like my father, about missing the smell of rain on earth back home, about how I believed kindness could heal even the hardest hearts. He listened, really listened. For the first time in 20 years, Alexander Voss didn't cut someone off. When the lights came back, he simply said, "Or not like the others," and wheeled away. But the real twist came when his enemies struck. A rival mafia family, tired of his dominance, launched an attack on the tower. Gunshots echoed through the halls. His security team fought back, but chaos reigned. I was in the kitchen when a stray bullet shattered the window near me. I screamed, diving under the counter. Alexander, despite his wheelchair, maneuvered through the danger with surprising agility, his gun in hand, barking orders. When he found me huddled and shaking, something shifted in him. He pulled me close, shielding me with his body. "You're safe. I won't let them touch you." In that moment, locked in his protective arms amid the violence, I saw it. The man beneath the ruthless king. Not just power, but pain. Deep, buried pain. The attack was repelled, but the stress triggered something in Alexander. That night, as I helped him with his medication, the agency had added light caregiving duties. He had a severe episode, old injuries flaring, phantom pain making him grit his teeth in silence. I stayed by his side, holding his hand, talking softly. "It's okay to feel, sir. Pain means you're still alive, and alive people can still laugh. Let me tell you about the time I tried cooking biryani for the first time and set the kitchen on fire. He didn't laugh, but his breathing steadied. And for the first time, his grip on my hand tightened, not in command, but in need. The tension escalated when Alexander's doctors recommended experimental surgery that could potentially restore some mobility, but the risk was high, and he had refused it for years, preferring control in his broken body over false hope. Ayesha, with her talkative encouragement and research, she spent nights reading medical journals on her old phone. Convinced him to consider it. "What if it works, sir? You could dance at our wedding." I joked, then blushed, realizing what I said. He didn't laugh, but he booked the consultation. Twist! During recovery from a minor procedure, complications left him temporarily even more dependent. I became his constant companion, bathing him with gentle care, professional boundaries blurring. Reading to him from books I borrowed from the library, romance novels that made me sigh dreamily while he pretended to scoff. His mafia world clashed with my innocence. When one of his rivals kidnapped me to leverage against him, Alexander unleashed hell, ruthless as ever, but this time driven by something new. Fear of losing the only light in his darkness. He rescued me personally, wheeling into the enemy hideout with guns blazing, his team carrying him where needed. In the aftermath, as I trembled in his lap in the getaway car, he held me close. No one takes what's mine! And you, Ayesha, you are mine." I looked up at him, tears in my eyes. "Then stop being so scary and let me make you smile, Alexander." He didn't smile. But he kissed my forehead the first tender touch. The story deepens with emotional layers. Ayesha teaching him small joys, watching sunrise from the balcony, listening to music from her homeland, playing silly games like charades where his men joined in awkwardly. His lieutenant started respecting her influence, seeing how the boss's decisions became less brutal, more calculated with unexpected mercy. Realization moment. Alexander finds out Ayesha turned down a better-paying job offer because she didn't want to leave him alone. That night in the quiet, he pulled her onto his lap in the wheelchair. "Oh, you selfless little fool. Why? Because love isn't about power or money, it's about staying when it's hard." He claimed me fully then, locking the world out, declaring to his empire that the talkative maid was under his protection as his woman. Whispers spread. The ruthless king was softening. The morning after the attack, the penthouse smelled of gunpowder and fear, but I refused to let the darkness win. I woke up early, my hands still trembling from the night before, yet I tied my dupatta firmly and headed to the kitchen. Alexander Voss sat in his wheelchair by the massive window, staring out at the New York skyline as if it owed him an apology. His face remained that same unreadable mask. No smile, no softness, just the ruthless Mafia king who had shielded me with his own body. I started talking before I even reached him. "Good morning, sir." Or should I say, "Good morning, my personal superhero in a wheelchair." Last night was like a Bollywood action movie, but without the dancing. Though if you want, I can do a little Bhangra right here to celebrate we're both alive. I laughed at my own joke, the sound bright and out of place in his cold world. He turned his head slowly, gray eyes locking onto me. "You should be terrified. Most women would have run by now." I placed a steaming cup of fiai in front of him, extra cinnamon, just the way he secretly liked, and sat on the low stool beside his wheelchair. Maybe a little... My mother used to say my tongue has wheels, but silence makes everything heavier. Like your shoulders right now. They look like they're carrying the whole Mafia world. Let me help lighten the load. I stood up and began gently massaging his tense shoulders, my small hands working with the same care I once used on my father's aching back. He stiffened at first, unused to touch that wasn't clinical or fearful, but he didn't pull away. That became our new rhythm. Every day I chattered while working. I told him about the colorful bazaars of Punjab, the smell of fresh jelbis in the morning, how my little sister would chase fireflies at dusk. I described festivals where entire villages danced under strings of lights, and how even the poorest homes shared food with strangers. Alexander listened. He never interrupted. Sometimes his men would enter the room for orders and freeze, shocked to see their boss allowing the talkative maid to sit so close, laughing freely. One afternoon, while I was arranging the sunflowers I had bought again, they were his favorite now, though he'd never admit it. A delivery arrived. It was a new set of medical equipment for his physical therapy. I clapped my hands excitedly. "Look at this. We can turn this into a game. I'll be the coach, and you'll be the champion." If you do 10 reps, I'll tell you the funniest story about when I tried to ride a bicycle in the rain back home and ended up in a mud puddle. He gave me that long, piercing stare. "I don't play games, Ayesha." "But life is a game, sir, and you've been playing the serious version for 20 years. Time for some fun mode." I grinned undeterred. To my surprise, he did the reps, slowly, painfully, his powerful arms and upper body moving with disciplined effort. I cheered like it was the World Cup final. "Yes, that's my strong Mafia king. See, you're smiling inside. I can feel it." His lips didn't curve, not yet, but the corner of his mouth twitched. Just once. I counted it as a victory and danced a little victory jig right there in the living room, my sour camise swirling. His head of security, Marco, walked in at that exact moment and nearly dropped his gun in shock. The days turned warmer between us, even as winter gripped the city. I started cooking proper meals. Spicy chicken karahi, fragrant biryani with raisins and nuts, fresh naan that filled the penthouse with smells from my homeland. His men, hardened killers who once only ate steak and whiskey, began lingering in the kitchen, asking shyly for seconds. "Miss Ayesha, this beats anything we've had," one of them muttered. Alexander watched from his wheelchair, silent but observant. Then came the first major twist. I had been secretly sending almost my entire salary back to Rahim Khan for my father's heart treatment. One evening, while organizing his documents, he had started trusting me with small tasks. Alexander discovered the bank transfer receipts I had accidentally left in my bag. Wait, his voice cut through the air like a blade. Explain this. I froze, my heart racing. It's for my father, sir. He's been sick, and the doctors in Pakistan are expensive. I didn't want to burden you. I'm sorry if You've been living on almost nothing while cleaning my floors and making me laugh. His tone was low, dangerous, but there was something else beneath the anger, pain. Why hide it? I knelt beside his wheelchair, looking up into those stormy gray eyes. Because you already carry so much. The empire, the pain in your legs, the weight of 20 years without smiling. And I don't know what to do with you anymore. That night, he didn't send me away. Instead, he had his private jet prepared. The next morning, we flew, me, him, and a small team, to Pakistan. One evening, while I was out buying fresh ingredients for his favorite meal, he had started craving my spicy food. Their men grabbed me from the street. I was terrified, locked in a dark warehouse, but I didn't cry silently. I talked loudly. A talkative girl is a bad idea. Nah,